Peace, Chiefs and Deers. It's Bronzebird here with another video. Before I begin, like and subscribe. So I hope that guys can have a very forefront conversation as I always advocate for so-called Black men to seek mental treatment, to seek mental health and get over the whole entire negative view or persistence in believing that being a so-called Black man who is vulnerable to their emotions is a wrong thing. Now, the thing about it is today, I also want to get to so-called Black boys because especially in the so-called Black community, I don't see a lot of schools or have seen schools in general, especially if you've been raised to go to public school sponsored by the state, in which they don't have a lot of programs for young so-called Black men or so-called Black boys to go to when they feel like there's pressure in the classroom. They feel like there's some type of animosity or some type of vitriol with a fellow student or a a teacher for that matter. Now I can go off the personal story. I've actually had the privilege to join programs where they groom young men into becoming fine gentlemen and young men, in which there's a lot of different events they had where so-called Black boys, whether you was raised by a father or you was raised your father and mother, or you was raised just by your mother, where we all could connect as men, as young men or inspiring men to go to things that events that we felt as if like, well, the person of the event felt was important, going to basketball games or learning simple things such as tying a tie, going to baseball games and all these different things. That was great. But I have an understanding, especially if you live in the urban community, you don't have that type of privilege. Most of the time, a lot of our parents and a lot of parents in general just feel as if like they have the just do it mentality. They want to put their child in public school and just allow them to just be around kids for socialization, but don't really impact their minds when they're home or have a serious conversation with their children about what's going on in their world, how they feel, what is going on, and things like that. So I'm gonna make this video about a popular YouTube video that actually was on a couple of years back about a karate instructor that wanted the so-called Black boy to express himself. And by express himself, I mean cry. Because in our community, it's still something that we haven't come to grips with. Looking at the so-called Black boy to be built on the idea he's not to express his emotions. Therefore, when he grows up, a lot of these complaints that come from these women talk about how so-called Black men are emotionally unstable, or the fact of the matter, they don't express their emotions. And this is why I advocate for more so-called Black men to create therapy groups and all these other things so that we can be able to impact and uplift ourselves emotionally as well. So Pete.
Zeus! 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 Pulling, punch all the way through. When you feel the pain, go all the way through. That could be a barrier in life or anything. Punch hard. Zeus! Zeus! Now punch it harder. Punch through it. You feel pain? Shake that off. Let's go. Zeus! 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 That's what this is about. Good. Let's get to that.
And I also want to say this is a beautiful thing because I like seeing things like this. Because I also want to stretch the point that this can apply to your life in general, and especially me as I grow older and I grow more wiser about kicking through those walls or punching through those walls, those barriers of life, in which that man just illustrated here in a video. And you see this young boy crying because of the frustrations, because of fear, in which a lot of us still deal with to this day, in which I have to make sure that I say that fear is just opposition of the mind, in which you're teaching yourself to be fearful. This is also, I say something to myself because there's many boundaries that I have to come over and that I have to get over in order to be where I want to be or get to as close as I want to get to. And what you see in this video, it actually reminds me of the movie The Last Dragon, and about how the protagonist had to go against the big man. I forgot the brother's name, but then Shonuff, that's his name, Shonuff, and how it was all these frequent battles with Shonuff until it got to a point he actually realized his power within himself to finally defeat Shonuff in a type of way where he wasn't intimidated by his massive height and how his massive aggression and aggressiveness towards him allowed him to feel like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to fight this battle. I'm tired of it. Us as brothers must understand. At the end of the day, you must look at yourself in the mirror, understand what your boundaries are in order to move forward. Regardless if this society is looking at you in a very demeaning way, regardless if the whole entire society looks at you and say you have no power, you have nothing, even if your own women tells you that. We must build ourselves to be stronger. We must build ourselves to be warriors and more.
Why are you crying? That's what this is about, son. It's okay to cry. We cry as men. Why are you crying, though, son? Come on. Tell me, why are you crying? It's part of the test for a reason, but why are you crying? Go ahead, sir. Because what?
Professor is harder to do with my left hand.
Okay, good. But you did it. You punched him today. You know in life there's going to be things harder for you to do than other things.
Yes, sir.
And you know those things that may appear to be hard to do, you're going to have to do as a man, regardless. And it's going to take tears. It's going to take the blood of Yeshua, Jesus, and your sweat to break through it. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So I don't mind you crying. I cry a lot too. You know what I'm saying? All right. So I want you to you're pulling your blow. I don't know if you're facing fear or you're feeling that you may not make it. And we all face that from time to time. And when we face, as soon as we have resistance, we don't want to stop, right? Because it's hurting. We feel that pain. We're like, I'm not going through this no more, right?
Yes, sir.
We have to go on. It's going to be very painful. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Being a
And I'm glad.
black man in this country, you're going to need mental fortitude. You're going to have to be strong here more so than here.
Exactly. And this is something I also want to stress to brothers that might be in disbelief at this point, because I feel like a lot of us brothers feel as if, like, no matter what we do, no matter how many times we have these oppositions or, you know, dealing with people who hate us, you have to build your mindset. Your mindset has to be its own muscle before you go out in the world and, you know, want to tackle things, because the fight is hard. Believe you me, mentally, physically, all it, spiritually as well. And I definitely wanted to make this video today to stress that we must instill this into the mind of our youth too, the so-called black boys. Because the thing about it is, a lot of these schools is not going to teach your son how to become a strong man. A lot of these schools are leaning towards your boy, you know, being able to express his feminine side and, you know, wear a dress and all this other stuff. And it's not about a mockery here. This is about the real deal about what's going on. But I express this because a lot of this stuff that's going on in society is basically pushing us back. It's not enticing us, especially when I see the youth, so-called black boys. You know what I'm saying? And I understand that they're going ahead now and they're sitting up there saying, not this brother in the video, but they have these things where they're trying to basically pervert the mind of your young child and say to express his feminine side. So they'll pull the same narrative too, and they'll say it's okay to cry, it's okay to be vulnerable, and this, that, and the third. But that's not, they're doing it in a very different way in which it's not helping, okay?
You understand?
Yes, sir.
You can do it. You just got to put your mind to it. And it's good to cry so you can work through that emotion. So when it arises again, you can push it to the side and do it. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Let's see what you got. Really big, hard. Tell me what hard as you can.
See that? And he did that on the first try. And the thing about it is, brothers, I know you know this, but I just want to say this to brothers that's in disbelief. It's okay if you don't get it right on the first try. It's okay if, you fail that one time or twice or three times and this, that, and the third. Especially you see a lot of these like Instagram posts for motivation, or you'll see these YouTube videos for motivation. You know, the thing about it is that the important lesson of life is not to be validated by anybody. You understand? Don't worry about what other people is thinking. Don't look for the validation of other people. Look for the validation of yourself. You understand?
Move quickly.
And this is another video I want to make very important to brothers, where you see this instructor with that tool that he's using against the young boy, in which, you know, it's a video I actually really wanted to touch on, because the thing about it is that too many times we react. We don't understand what the situation is. We're just so accustomed to just being like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and flinch, or I'm going to go ahead and do this automatically without even understanding why we're doing it, or looking at the opponent in the eyes and understanding what a signal is. You understand?
Look at me. You can still see this, right? Deal with your anxiety. No. Good. Relax. Nothing has happened yet, son. Breathe. You can respond on a what if you will get in trouble.
You got it, just like that. That's
You
how
have
you
to
want
wait
to
some
be,
time
right?
before you make that decision.
Yeah.
If you move too soon, move now. Move just like you did. I'll abort. It just hit you in your head. Stand back up. Move when you think you should move on this weapon. You understand? Now, let's go.
Good. Sign. Set up. Shalom. Good.
All right, let's step it up. Back up, quick. There you go. Back up. Yes. Big difference. You got it? It's not his, it's me. I'm the problem. Keep your eyes focused on the problem, not the distraction.
And I just wanted to make a video on that, because I feel as if it's time for that conversation where we have to look at the youth, because obviously the way that the society is rolling, the way that society is going, it's no telling what can happen in the future. Yes, I go over videos that's talking about the tech, the digital age, and all these different things, but the whole entire point of this society, especially because you have children in school or you're an inspiring father, is to dumb down your children, especially where they're going to lack intellectual property, emotionality, and all these different things like that. They're going to lack having those ideas stuck in their head where they can become a strong man. They're going to be weighed down by a lot of history, in which I'm not saying history is wrong, that critical race theory nonsense, and talking about things such as the LGBTQ community or feminism and all these different things. It's not going to matter to the teachers, because they're just following the program. We must take it upon ourselves for our youth to understand what they could be and how to be stronger warriors in this society, regardless of anything that's going on. And I mean that mentally. Peace.